zone. Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me.
We're back, baby. Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It's a nice Monday morning over here from a very gloomy Helsinki, Finland. Once again, man, we got a lot to talk about on good old Bitcoin because the weekend action was mostly sideways, mostly boring, mostly sleepy. And because now the new week has started and because we got regular markets trading in a few hours, well, not maybe a few hours, but like about 6 to 8 hours, we should be having some action. So I want to prepare for that. A lot of big things to actually be speaking about on Bitcoin right now. In fact, as we are at a major inflection point. So I do believe that this week is going to be met with some pretty massive volatility, meaning that big opportunities staring us right in the face. So we'll get into that in just a second here. We do see a lot of differences between the lower timeframes and the higher timeframes right now. So this is going to be a fun, probably a fun little next 2 days, I'd imagine. Anyways, with all that said, I do want to wish you the best and always the happiest as well, because why fucking not, man? We need more smiles in this world. God damn it. Helsinki people, people say that Finland's like the most happiest country in the world. At least that's what study shows. It's not. It's definitely not measured by smiles, at least, but by social benefits, perhaps. Anyways, with all of that said, I do want to say that I'll be doing a Twitch stream a little bit later today. Those have been really, really fun. We've been doing some live trading on them, and it's a little bit more, or not a little bit more, it's certainly a lot more indicative of what real trading is all about, which is a lot of waiting. It's a lot of patience, a lot of bullshit, really. And, I feel like people think or at least what I thought when I first got into trading, it's like you're always going to be like doing a little bit of something right here and a little bit of something right there. That's just not true, at least in my experience, unless you're like high frequency trading or something like that. But that's not what we're doing here. We're trading just magic internet means. Anyways, so the links in the description of the video for that. And of course, with those streams, analysis is not necessarily at the foreground of them. Gaming's at the foreground of them, and then we kind of look at charts in between games, essentially. So a lot of fun, man. And you're more than welcome to join on in the community. And with that said, I think it's time to get into the live scene right on over here. So I'm pressing that button, baby, and I'll see you in there. And there she goes. Teleportation into the live scene right here. Bitcoin on the daily on Bitstamp, and yesterday we did close the weekly out. The weekly actually had a pretty damn good close, to be fair. So I want to start off with the semi-higher time frames here first. Daily close once again above the 200 exponential moving average right here. Not bad. Not necessarily too crazy as well, but a good start. We got the 2-day closing a little bit as a Jesus Christ dildo. So a few things to be aware of right here. We can actually use this as a pivot to kind of mark the next sort of trades off of whether we take out the bottom side of this or the top side of it first. That's going to likely be our next big direction for the intra-week action. And then going over here to the 3-day, we do see that we've actually set in a nice base support, closing above all major moving averages on the 3 days. So I do like that as well. So higher time frames actually showing that we do get another try to the upside here. And of course, the weekly close as well, which closed for the first time, I believe, just a hair above, hair on the ball sack above the 21 exponential moving average on the weekly. So we haven't seen that since our failed pump in late October. And, if Bitcoin is going to mount an assault and actually reverse the overall macro trend here, which is still very much to the downside, I actually do think that it comes from this, this current price action right here. However, until that actually happens, until we actually get full on confirmation of this, it's still a downtrend. It's still bearish overall. I mean, at the end of the day, the most simple of simple ways to be analyzing and trading is, well, just looking at the trend on the macro scale. And that means higher highs, higher lows, lower highs. Simple as that, man. And right here, we do have a downtrend on the weekly, and the trend on the weekly has been the most accurate way of trading Bitcoin since the inception, essentially. So anytime that we've had a reversal on the weekly, those have been your major massive moves. And to put things into perspective here, we ain't nowhere close to creating an uptrend or confirming an uptrend as of just yet. We do not have anything resembling a higher high. And of course, in order to get a higher high, we need to get back above our last prior high, which is all the way over here at about 9,500. So I always want to start off with that perspective to begin. And then after that, we'll kind of get into the fun stuff in the lower time frames. And then also, if we go over here, we do see that our long-term downtrend resistance is still coming in very sharply, very strongly, right around about 8,500 in this blue box territory. All of those things are still very much in the charts. And until we actually, fully and formally take them out, really hard to get, excited about major, massive moves to the upside or anything like that. But, with the way that we've closed out the this past week, there is strength building. And I actually do kind of like what I'm seeing over here. Now, with that said, I'm going to shuffle down into the lower term timeframes with that in mind. And actually, the lower term timeframes here are showing some heaviness for at least a little bit of a short term pullback. In fact, I've been checking out the 4-hour jewel, which is giving a decent sell signal right here. Not super perfect, but pretty damn good. And I would say that any sort of a close here or lower on this next 4-hour dildo, especially if it breaks a 21 exponential moving average, is likely going to confirm that signal. And I'd probably be looking for a move back down somewhere around like 7,900, 7,950-ish region, anywhere around this area right here. At which point I probably would be looking for a bounce, and we actually would be creating higher lows on this time frame as well. And we do see all lower time frame momentum oscillators turning down at the same time. We see 4-hour Stokes turning down. We're losing the bullish control zone. 3-hour Stokes already there. 2-hour Stokes going to be turning down freshly, and hourly Stokes quite aggressive in that trajectory. So I do think that I do think that Bitcoin's kind of poised for a pullback here. It's too many P's. I'm getting my pop filter in the way. Anyway, spitting all over this fucking BBC-sized microphone in front of my face. But I do think that we probably do bounce somewhere in this region right here, and then we'll have to analyze the bounce once again. So I just want to. Sorry, I completely forgot to follow up on yesterday's price action. So yesterday we were kind of just ranging. I said that it was likely we were going to test the top side of the more preliminary range, which was this guy right here. We did 8,200 for full disclosure. I did take off my long at that area, and I'll likely look to re-long a little bit lower. Haven't decided just exactly where just yet, but if we do break again this especially like 80-20ish region on a 4-hour delta close or even a 2-hour delta close, I would be looking somewhere around 7,900, give or take about $50. I think somewhere in that range, likely to find another bounce and potentially another local low, and given the granted the higher time frames, I do think that we probably get another try to the upside, meaning somewhere in this region right here, actually on the top side of the range. So this is kind of a pivotal moment for Bitcoin, because as long as Bitcoin does set in a higher low, basically anywhere above 7,800, the uptrend is still intact as far as the lower timeframes go, all the way up to, I believe, a 2-day or definitely a daily, but maybe a 2-day. Let's actually go over here and check that out. I do want to confirm this. So daily is certainly an uptrend right here. We confirmed a higher low right here, and then higher highs consecutively after that. So we do have our first uptrend on a daily ever since October. A failed rally over here, which was not really even an uptrend. I mean, it was just a massive girthy green dildo in everyone's face. The last uptrend that we had was really, in the first half of 2019. Actually, more like the second quarter, in fact. It's like a 3 to 4 month rally, essentially. Anyways, as it stands right now, we do have a good cross between the yellow 21 exponential moving average and the green 55 exponential moving average right here on the daily. So I do believe that the bias in the medium-term timeframes, aka the daily, is actually still to the upside, but we probably do have a little bit of a more of a pullback to deal with here. Looking at the daily, we do kind of destroy structure below 7,950, and getting a 4-hour sell signal on the jewel is certainly not is not anything to kind of like laugh at in my experience. But I would say that will be salvaged as long as we do not break the 21 exponential moving average on the 4-hour delta time frame. So all of these things interrelated with each other is really forming the bias right now. And I would say that if we do break this area, then yes, we will very, very likely head much lower. Well, not much lower, but about like $100, $200 from that region, somewhere in this territory right here, and I'd probably be looking for another bounce there. But until we actually break this, technically I would not be looking for that, even though all momentum oscillators are kind of turning down on the medium and lower time frames, which is concerning for sure. Anyways, to kind of mediate that, let's go back on over here to the 12-hour. I haven't really checked out this one. 12-hour looks constructive as well. We got a higher low right here, set in another higher low on the weekend as well. And to me, this is just a nice orderly consolidation. And again, it still wouldn't it wouldn't really rock the boat too hard to come back down about 7,850 and test around that region again. So I don't really have too much of an issue with this chart. We do see 12-hour RSI is losing the exponential here and getting rejected from the bullish control zone. I don't like that. So if I had to put the pieces together here, I do think that Bitcoin likely gets a pullback, maybe a little bit below 8,000, we'll call it, and then I'd look for another bounce attempt after that, and then that next attempt is going to likely be very, 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 very telling of the overall greater equation. Is Bitcoin actually getting ready to reverse the macro trend here or not? And well, as long as we remain above, especially about 7,800, I do believe that is, that actually is within the cards and within the probabilities. Speaking of probabilities, let's go check out over here our expected moves with regards to historical volatility percentile, and we do see that the first deviation is once again showing a little bit of pressure down, but encompassing our ranges extremely well, just like yesterday essentially. Top side of the first deviation coming in right around 8,300. I would certainly agree with that. That would be in alignment with essentially our 12-hour resistance coming in this region right here from our last prior high, about again 8,300. So any sort of a move above there actually would be indicative of a breakout at the very least on the low time frames up to the next blue box territory, another couple of $200-300 higher between 85 and 8,600ish region. But as you can see right here, that's actually a little bit less likely to happen today. By the same token, the bottom side of the first deviation is coming in right around a little bit below 7,900, so that would still be within the boundaries of creating higher lows on our higher time frames, which is good. So it would keep that uptrend intact, and of course, moving outside of that range, both to the upside and the downside, is less than a 16% chance. So what is it most? What are we most likely to do today? Probably fill out the range a little bit more and set up the actual attempt for tomorrow, whether it be the break to the upside above 8,300 or the break to the downside below 7,800. If we do, I just spoke about the targets if we break above 8,300 right here. By the same metric, if we do break to the downside below, 7,850 would be a pretty big blow, but 7,800 is kind of like the no more excuses zone, no excuses zone, if you want to call it that. Then yes, I would look for a move actually all the way down to about 7,500ish region, not necessarily immediately, but over time, and then probably a small bounce there, and then continuation to the downside of the region. Because if we do take out our last prior low, if we do even take out this 7,950-ish low right here that we set in over the weekend, this does confirm this as a local high actually. And if this is a local high, then we actually do have hidden bearish divergence in play. So I am actually kind of contradicting myself right here. So let me explain, because let me explain, because this could actually be a major inflection point on the market. Okay. If Bitcoin does take out that last 2-day low that we set in over the weekend, which admittedly is not perfect, but if that were to happen, this would be confirmed as a local high. If this is a local high, then we do again have hidden bearish divergence in play between our highs in late October right in over here and our highs that we just set in right here. If that were to happen, and like I said, I do believe that we'd have a quick move down to about 7,600, probably a small bounce there, and then likely continuation down to the low 7,000s, like 7,100ish region over time. So we are at a big pivotal moment. But I would say that the higher time frames actually are a little bit more angled towards the upside, or at least another upside attempt here. I do like the 3-day popping back down after setting a nice girthy green dildo over the weekend, closing strong. So I do think that is good. So I'm a little bit all over the place today, but that is representative of my overall thoughts. I have no position right now. I don't care to have a position right now. I'll trade a little bit lower. I'll trade a little bit higher, but not in this current range as it stands. Now, if Bitcoin does hit another low here on a 4-hour double time frame, which I think is a little bit unlikely, but if it were to and completely negate this jewel sell signal, which is about how much time away? Yeah, 21 minutes and 27 seconds away from confirming itself. Then that's kind of like the next big thing for me, really. Because if we do get a legitimate 4-hour jewel sell signal, it's very unlikely to just bring us down, another $100. Probably gonna actually hold some weight, probably at least a couple $100 down to 7,900ish region. That obviously has implications with the 2-day, which has implications with the macro, which has implications with, lower highs, lower lows, downtrend. So big inflection point coming up. And right now we don't really have clarity on the situation. We have to wait a little bit. I'd imagine that we get likely a move around the open of traditional markets today for the Americans. New York Stock Exchange opens at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Anyways, okay, let's see if we can find anything else to kind of formulate a bias. Let's go over the 12-hour. 12-hour Stokes are actually still up. They're actually a little bit up on the, defending the bullish control zone, so on the more positive side, but I do not like the RSI there. It's going to take a nice move to the upside in order to get that unraveled back, but that's going to be the next time frame that really matters to show us what's going on here. Closing in another 5-6 hours, it looks like. 4 hours. Oh man, it's a lot more soon than I thought. Anyways, daily momentum also is turning down right here. Daily Stokes coming down. We do see a trend line forming, but this trend line does come in a little bit sharply around the bullish control zone, which is good, but it would suggest that we do come back down and test around that region. Daily RSI is a little bit in limbo here. I don't have a strong opinion on this. It is kind of rejection of the bullish control zone as it stands right now. I'm curious how low time frame historical volatility percentile is shaping up. We should see further contraction. Yes, we do see further contraction, but it's getting down to the critical points, kind of almost there. It should get down there a little bit later today, or early tomorrow. So yes, we are likely looking at multi-$100 move in this next 24-hour session, I'd imagine. And I should also mark off that all the lower time frame jewels are actually giving sell signals here. So 3-hour jewel. We already looked at the 4-hour, 2-hour, I think gave a decent one right here. But this one's kind of already, we already got 8,200 to about 8,050. That's decent enough. I'm curious if the 6-hour has the same sort of signal present, and it does. So yeah, problems here. So yeah, man, I can come up with scenarios for both sides, but it does look to me like Bitcoin does want to test a little bit lower first before anything else, and then we get to play the game of where do we get into where are we going to set in a low somewhere around here? Does the bounce turn into a reversal in the lower term timeframes, which I know is very frustrating to hear an analysis like this, but that's how I'm going to be trading it. Anyways, let's go check out CMEs, and CMEs back open for trading. We do see that CMEs are actually a little bit more healthy, in fact, and I do put more weight on CME charts. So if I am going to be bullish here, which CME say more or less we're okay. We can come all the way down to 78.50 and no big issues. But overall, what's going on here? Hold on. How do we open up the weekly? Yeah, weekly has a strong open as well. We can come very easily down to about 8,000-ish region, and this does have a $100 price premium on it. So yeah, that'd be around 7,900. So it does look to me like we probably do see below 8,000 today. But I would be expecting a bounce there. I think that's how to be interpreting this as of the current moment in time. 4-hour not really giving us too much. It's still constructive, but does look to me like it wants to probably test a little bit lower, around 8,000. Again, $100 price premium on this probably puts a spot around 7,900-ish region. So is that 2-day hidden bearish divergence going to be the key factor? Because everything else doesn't really suggest the same thing. In fact, the 2 days is the only thing that I'm looking at that suggests that we actually have big potential issues staring us in the face as far as the medium and lower timeframes go. Of course, the macro is still down, so nothing's really changed there. So man, I'm all over the place today, but this is, this is real. Sometimes it's just going to be like that. And when I'm seeing a lot of different things going on, and I don't see like full on confluences, I'm probably not going to trade it, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now. So I want to be very, very open and honest with that, because sometimes just don't know what to fucking do. Anyways, let's see. As far as CMEs go, we are creating higher lows as long as we're above 7,800. Okay, so we see the same thing as spot. Good. CME momentum oscillators are completely different than spot, though. We see 4-hour Stokes up, 3-hour Stokes up, 2-hour Stokes curling, and hourly Stokes down. So actually they might be catching up. Maybe we do have another small rally attempt back above 82 on CME, so that would be about 81 on spot, and then find another top there and then test some downside. But it does look to me like the lower time frames on just about everything that we look at do want to test some downside here. Anyways, back on a spot right on over here. Let me see. Oh man, we've already been here for almost 20 minutes. Hourly is about to lose its higher lows in a second if we go below about 80-20-ish region. So yeah, I'm feeling a little more comfortable about calling about 7,900 drop down here. I'm not short right now, for full disclosure, but I do think that we probably come down at the very least to 7,900 based off of all of that, and then get to play the game once again. I do think that we probably bounce there as well. It's also going to be the hourly 200 simple and 200 exponential average. And okay, cool. Alrighty. Okay, what else do we want to look at? Let's go look at the other top altcoins. I'm curious how they're shaping up right now, and if they're showing anything more to be aware of on the biases here, or shaping up a bias. Mr. Buterol, we do have bearish divergence actually present right now. Do I think that we come back down and tap 138.5? Actually, kind of likely, especially if Bitcoin comes down here. I would be looking for such. 4 hours starting to lose its luster a little bit. Did get the golden cross right over here, but again, major bearish divergence on the 4 hour right here. And I do think that has it already played out. We did already have a almost 4% move down. That's pretty decent. That is pretty decent, to be fair. We do have also a 4-hour jewel sell signal kind of brewing, it looks like, but not as perfect as what we see on Bitcoin spot. I'm curious what the 12-hour looks like. 12-hour looks okay. could still very easily come down to about 139.5 and still be creating higher lows. So not a huge issue there. But again, bearish divergence present here. So that is problematic. How do we close the weekly on this baby? Still below all major moving averages. Hard to be bullish off that. Still looks like shit. In fact, all major moving averages are getting divergences away from each other as the trend as the trend is to the downside, saying that the trend is strengthening to the downside as well. Let's go check out Mrs. Litecoin. How did she close out the week? Closed above the 10 simple, not bad. It looks to me like we want to have a pullback here. Okay, so now it's starting to become a little bit more obvious as far as the general market goes. I do think that we pull back in the lower term timeframes here, and I do think that we bounce probably around 7,900, maybe 7,850, something like that, and then we'll come back and reassess after that. But I'm short-term, medium-term bullish as long as Bitcoin is above 7,800. I'm macro bearish as long as we're still in a downtrend on the weekly. So, looking at Mrs. Litecoin right here, did close the week strong, and also actually did take out our long-term downtrend here as well. But these things typically do get retested, and on top of that, do we see the same sort of divergences here? No, we don't. Actually, daily is very strong. Daily closed on higher highs. I'd still be bullish on the daily here. Actually, I do think that it works its way up to 55 to $56. In fact, so yeah. Maybe a little bit more of a pullback and then another try higher, most likely. This looks pretty good here. Momentum oscillators are getting a little bit tired. A daily Stokes coming down. Daily RSI, no divergences to be found, but looks good for a little bit of a pullback. How's the 12-hour looking? 12 hours about to get rejected from the 200 simple. Not really seeing anything obvious here either. Bearish divergence on a 12-hour. So yes, I do. I do think that we probably pop back down to like $48, something like that, and bounce around there. Be a little bit more like this if I had to accurately represent it. So there we go. This is the value in looking around the general market sphere when I'm not like too confident on Bitcoin. So the market typically moves together. So if we can find some biases along the majors, then that should help formulate everything else. Anyways, go check out really quickly. Stellar. I do want to do the rounds here just because. This would be one of the times where it's quite helpful. Well, lower high right there. But I do believe it's just consolidating here. It's going to follow the rest of the market. This one's not leading. What else do we have? Where's Ripple Me Nipples? 21 cents. Same thing. Looks like it could afford a little bit of a dip lower, 20.5 cents region, and then probably tries another bounce there. What about EOS? We got EOS running over here. Again, looks to me like it probably wants to drop a little bit lower, but no real issues as long as it's above 292. So yeah, we come down to $3 even. What about NEO? NEO and EOS both look like they want to try higher, but again, that's more medium term. Short term, it actually does look like it wants to come back down to like 9.5, something like that. Tron Cash, what's Tron Cash doing? Same thing. Actually working its way higher. Do we have bearish divergence here though? No, we do not. No, we do not. So medium time frame still maintaining their overall good posturing. So fair enough. This is one of the more harder reads I've seen in a while for just the general market in Bitcoin land. Let's go check out gold right now. How's gold doing? Gold getting a little bit of a pullback here. I actually do think that it bounces somewhere between 1550 and like 1548, and I do think that we're going to get another try towards 1575 region. This is kind of reminiscent of Bitcoin as well. Having this massive falling channel getting resolved to the upside. We did hit our target in this blue box territory right here. Initial sell off from it. To be expected. Now we get to play the game of is this just a retest of our prior highs and then testing that support and then continuation to the upside. And I actually am not as bearish as I think most people are on this one right now. You do see these pretty volatile moves in gold, but gold trades a lot like Bitcoin. It's a very volatile asset. They're fucking commodities, what they are. So yeah, I do think that is kind of testing the downside here, and then we're going to pop back up actually. In range, and then the break out of this range is going to be our next big direction. If we break to the downside, I'd be looking for a move down to 1520. If we break to the upside, I'd look for another test towards 1610, 1630-ish region. So yeah, a big inflection point coming up. Anyways, this is going to be a little bit of a faster video, I suppose, today. Let's go check out. Traditional markets haven't really moved over the weekend, so all the analysis there is pretty much still the same. SPY probably opens up the week on a little bit of a pullback, but then I'd be looking for that to get picked up. Our point of failure, I think, got moved up to like 322 now, which is just crazy. Let's go check out dollar yen. Dollar yen looking okay. It's looking like it actually does want to buck the trend here. Now we're still right at resistance, so it's not appropriate to say just yet, but I do believe that that is actually quite likely. Daily's looking strong, about to get a golden cross. Weekly had a very good close, and I do think that any sort of a move above all of these highs right here, which is about that 109.75 region, and we'll see extension all the way up into this region here between like 111 and 111 and a half, more medium to long term, somewhere in this pocket over here. I'd be looking for. Actually, let me put in this this guy right here. There we go. And it does look pretty good to me, actually. Weekly weekly RSI is looking okay. So again, looking like it's going to give a legitimate try. Let's look at pound yen. Pound yen, kind of the same thing, except a little bit more nasty. We are still being held below the 200 simple. I'm not bullish on it as long as we're below there. But it did have a decent close to end last week. I would say that if we did get any sort of a daily total close or even a move back above 144.1, I would be looking for another retest of the highs and then actually extension beyond that. But in the lower time frames, do think that we test the downside first and any sort of a move below 141, and I would look for overall extension over the long term down to about 138 and a half region. So still kind of operating within this range right now, and I do think that we're going to be testing the downside of this range towards like 141.7, 141.5, sometime this week, and we'll see how we react right around there. Euro dollar, how's Euro dollar doing? Nice little bouncy bounce action. I do think that this one gets carried out a little bit more, perhaps back around 111 and a half, but losing its luster a little bit here. I think it's a little bit too early to call it just yet. I think it's actually very early to call it just yet. Is this just a retest of this long-term downtrend right here? Well, you can say that for now, but the second that we close below, especially 111, I'd be looking for this thing to come all the way back down, collapse down to like 110 region and probably beyond. So not so hot there as well. Anyways, I think that kind of wraps it up for that, man. Yeah, a little bit of a faster video today. So fair enough. Fair enough. I suppose we'll start to wrap this bitch up right now. Or actually, let's go look at the Bitcoin VWAP ratio. We do see that the blue is actually maintained above kind of like the halfway point for these guys. Not as important as the other two. The purple and the pink really do dictate the overall direction, but the blue shows us the intensity of that direction. And so it's telling us that the bearish grips on this are actually losing a little bit here, but it's certainly not over just yet. And of course, it's still the overall bias on this. I'd still say that the biggest thing for the bulls here, maybe not the biggest things for the bulls here, but one of the things that I keep in mind here for the bulls is the fact that we did get a buy signal on the hash ribbons, right? And that has been historically extremely good at getting the prior low, not very good at getting the momentum. If you want the deep dive into that, definitely check out the video that I uploaded yesterday in the long-term analysis playlist. I go into a deep dive on that. But as you can see right here, anytime that we've gotten a buy signal, the low has already been printed in, sometimes like months beforehand. Sometimes we do return to that low, but on a closing basis, on a daily total closing basis, we do not close below that prior low ever in the history of Bitcoin. And we have multiple iterations here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we're working on our 10th right now. So that's plenty, especially for an edge as a technical analyst. So I would say that Bitcoin did pop back down to low 7,000s. It's good enough history for me to probably be a buyer in that region once again, as I do not think that we'll make lower lows below that. Or at least if we do, then we have a massive change of behavior, and I would be happy to get extremely short, probably down to like 5,500 and then 4,500. But for right now, Bitcoin's at a major decision point. I suppose the last thing that I'll kind of leave you with before I wrap this up is, even with Bitcoin's perceived medium time frame strength here, it does still really coincide with a lot of overall macro bearish things. We have a very similar setup to what we had over here, and I know we repeat this all the fucking time, but it is very important. Bitcoin gets rejected by the 200 simple in this overall downtrend long term. Same thing right here. Yes, it's not exact, but it doesn't need to be exact. We're just looking for standardization around a technical analysis edge, which we do have. Is considered a rejection right here. Bitcoin then gets death cross right here. Bitcoin gets death cross right here. All lower periods below higher periods right here, and also right here. All negative slopes on major moving averages. Soon after that right here. Soon after that right here. And Bitcoin is trending to the downside as long as we're below the 21 exponential moving average on a daily total closing basis. And same thing over here. We regain it right here. We gain it right here. Boom, massive rally up. Boom, massive rally up. Thus far, this actually has been, as you can see, or sorry, this rally over here from last low to next high was all the way at the 200 simple moving average, about a 38.25% rally, right? And not only that, but it was also in line with our long-term downtrend, as you can see, coming in from our highs in middle of January, as right in over here, basically synonymous with the 200 simple. Well, we have something very similar going on over here. We see the 200 simple getting a negative slope. Getting a negative slope over here. We do see that the long-term downtrend is pretty much, around the 200 simple, not exact. Again, it doesn't need to be exact. And let's just, for curiosity's sake, from the last low to the 200 simple, what would that look like? That would be about a 32% rally. So pretty comparable to what we saw before as well. And also around the 382 Fibonacci retracement, which, just for shits and giggles, interesting as well. So yeah, we could rally up all the way to that region, even technically break this long-term downtrend right here on the falling channel and still remain overall bearish. I mean, that would still be technically a lower high as far as the weekly is concerned. As long as we're below about 9,500, it is a lower high on the macro. Doesn't mean that we can't do it, but a lot needs to be done first and foremost. I did forget to talk about this. The weekly does have a few more Hopium-induced things here. We do see weekly Stokes headed upwards and onwards. In fact, even getting or they're going to have a chance to get above our last prior high in November rally right in over here. Sorry, not November rally, but that October failed rally right here. But the weekly stocks are a little bit more lagging than not. They're actually not that great at timing things. Daily, 2-day, or the 12-hour and daily are actually the best ones with my settings right now. But then again, you might be running default settings, at which point they probably operate a little bit differently. But yeah. Other than that, we do see that the weekly 55 exponential moving average is coming in right around a little bit above our prior low on the daily, around 78.25 region. So that is good from from the daily perspective. Probably do bounce around there, so we very likely do get a chance to set in another higher low, so anywhere between about 78.50 and 7900ish region. And then the reaction from that, we'll just have to see it in real time. I don't have the crystal ball here to know what that is. I just know that if the reaction is good and we get back above, we see Bitcoin back above, let's call it like 8,200, 8,220. That's going to look really, really good for extension to 8,500, 8,600 and test the overall downtrend right here. And that's going to be the next big test as far as the higher time frames are concerned. Anyways, let's wrap this bitch up once again. 4 hour, I would say, is teetering on the edge of a nice $200 move to the downside, but that's if and only if we see the next 4 hour to close below the 21 exponential moving average. I do think that that's actually quite likely here. We could look at the probabilities for a 4 hour here. You can see that that expected moves for the 4 hour dildo time frame, which is not going to be as accurate as the daily, in fact, but interesting nonetheless, is showing that the bottom side of the first deviation is well within that, man. In fact, the first deviation is showing 8150 all the way down to 8,000ish region. So closing below our current 21 right here, which I think would initiate that move, which is 80.57 in spot. It's 80.58, 80.60 we'll call it. It's certainly well within those probabilities, so it actually is quite likely. I mean, this is 68% chance to close in between these two guys right here. But if we're just taking one half of that, which is essentially where we are right now, then it's really more like 34% chance, which is pretty decent actually. I mean, 1 out of 3 times you're going to be right. So as far as the 4 hours concerned, yes, we probably do break to the downside here. From a probability standpoint, from a momentum oscillator standpoint, from the Joule standpoint as well. And then I'd be looking for some sort of a bounce somewhere around 7850 to 7900ish region is where I'd be looking towards. If of course I could be wrong about that. If we don't bounce there, probably very, very likely big problems at that point. I'd probably be looking for a move all the way down to not just 70, what is this low, like 7750, but probably a small bounce there and then continuation after that. So that wouldn't look too good. That wouldn't look too hot either. So yeah, anyways, Jesus Christ, hitting all sorts of things beneath the table today. God damn. So yeah, for right now, I would say that, if we don't see this next 4 hour dildo, which closes in literally 1 minute and 7 seconds, close below this 21, you can keep the hopes up alive for the bulls a little bit longer, I suppose. But then we could also use the bottom side of this wick very, very likely at 80.39 to kind of judge that next sort of breakdown of price action. But for right now, it's technically holding up above. We got a little bit less than a minute. Perhaps I'll just stay on for this one. And let's just say, if Bitcoin does close above this region, you could still keep the hopes alive for the bulls in the lower term timeframes. We could say that we're maybe doing something like this. We're maybe making some sort of an ascending triangle, which is valid. I mean, it's very much valid right here. Let me actually get rid of this blue box territory. This one's a little bit convoluted. And let me get rid of this guy right here as well. We don't really need it right now. But something like this would be okay. It would be constructive and would be more bullish, of course. And if we do break back above, again, 8,200, I would be looking for extension towards the last little high right here, right around 8,450, 8,500-ish region. And then, at that point, probably just makes mosey its ways into the blue box territory right here. So let's see, we got 5 seconds left. Is it going to do it? Is it not going to do it? So far, so good. Still about $10 above. So hope stay alive for the bulls. One more dildo here. Let's see, do the other exchanges agree? Yes. BitMexico agrees. What about Finex? Finex agrees. What about GDAX? GDAX also agrees. So yeah, all the major exchanges agree. So for now, we are still kind of shooting along here. Maybe we get another attempt back up to like 8,150. But as far as a lower time frame range is concerned, this is the most obvious thing right here to me. As long as we're, as long as we're especially above about 80.20, wouldn't really look for a break to the downside. Although if it does happen, I'd be looking for about 7,900, 7,850-ish region. In this area to the upside, 82.20, same thing as yesterday essentially. And if that does get broken, I'd be looking for a retest of 84 to 8,500-ish region. So for right now, man, I'm happy to have no position. I'm happy to just be watching because things are a little bit sloppy right here. I don't really see anything too obvious from my own eyes. So with that said, I would like to wish everyone a very happy and healthy start to your week, perhaps even profitable as well, if it can be. And with that said, I'm going to be signing off, and I'll be back on Twitch a little bit later today. I think that by that time we should see clarity on the lower, on the lower time frames here, and there'll probably be a few trades staring us in the face. So with that said, take care, and until next time.